Hello and welcome back. This is Krista from the Online Selling Show, and I am bringing into a part 2 of what it's been for me in my entrepreneur journey. I know this channel has been here talking about documenting this new eBay store that I started in June, but I felt it was very relevant and very important, and I wanted to talk about what it meant for me going through a lot of dysfunction in my upbringing and talking about how it, at the end of this, is a benefit for me. And hopefully by sharing this will allow you in your journey of doing this to maybe recognize some of these things that are going on for you, or if you have recognized, how you can maybe use some of my examples to help you with your entrepreneurial journey. And in part 1, I kind of give you a little background as to how I got to the point of wanting to start this series, but also kind of a background in that I've had a lot of high functioning alcoholism in my family. I didn't share, we had teenage pregnancies. We've had one family member is like still in jail in their 60s. It's been like their entire life. And I can't tell you how many narcissist personalities have been there. And some have been what would be looked at as psychopathical. Some would be sociopathical. And basically the only difference in that to me, in my experience, and again, I will say it, I am in no way with any background in psychiatry. This is just me trying to learn more about myself and myself as an entrepreneur. But the only differences between the two is that I believe a sociopathical person understands when they're doing something that is a detriment to somebody else. They know they're doing it and they just basically excuse it out. Maybe they'll give you the apology afterwards, but they psychologically know at the time that they're making this decision that is to their benefit and they don't care. Meaning, like, maybe they know that you did all the hard work on that project at the job, and when they're getting the big thank you and a pat on the back, they know they're not saying that, like Mary over in the IT department. They take all the accolades. Oh yeah. And then Mary gets mad. Then they say, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. It was just they came out of nowheres with that, and I didn't know what to say." But in the back, they happen all the time doing this, so this wasn't just that one time, because it goes on all the time. They take credit for work that's not theirs. So that's the difference, where the psychopathical liar or narcissist personality, like, they don't know, they don't care. There's never going to be a ramification that if that same story happened and Mary came to them, they'd lie about it and say, like, "Oh, I never said that. Somebody made that up." Or they just look at it and say, "Well, I was part of it too. And, I don't know what your problem is." And they just completely disregard your feelings for it at all, or gaslight you and tell you, "I don't know why you feel that way. I mean, we all were part of the team. I don't know." And that's how that goes down. So how it's affected through my upbringing, and I've had to learn, is that, for one, I never want to rock the boat. I never want to become that center of attention. I've learned that being the center of attention is usually never good. It means that I'm usually always being singled out to be ridiculed or disciplined in some way. I've learned that through, like, not rocking the boat, it means, like, I don't want to have any conflict. I will take 3 roads over to make my left turn. And for an example, if that means I can avoid a certain conflict, it means I always have to be prepared. I had a job where I worked for the government in the state of New Jersey here, and I dealt with warrants, and I was in what is known as an administrative capacity, meaning I wasn't the actual judge, which is the judicial side of it. So my job was to bring the court records from my department, usually to court, and have to present them. But at times it meant I had phone calls and go to his chambers and stuff like that. And I always had to be prepared. And then if I had to go out there and reach out to multiple different personnel, I would do it. That had to go out there and start building that network, because if this possible problem comes up, I got to know who I can call. I dealt with the sheriff's department. I dealt with various other agencies in our judicial system or even outside. That meant I always had to have like a Rolodex of names of who to call. I always, on top of that, This type of person has to, at least for me, I always have to be prepared with whatever possibility of scenarios could happen. Meaning that I'm going to take, let's say, a trip and I'm going to airport. Like, I already got to know, like, we're getting up at this certain time. I'm already going to have like all of the paperwork together. So I got to make sure before we leave the house, like, everybody has their passport, or I'm going to make sure I have everybody's tickets printed and in my bag. I've got to have all of that stuff prepared. And then in my mind, I'm already starting to work on the, oh God, if we don't get there at 5 o'clock and get lunch, maybe I'll just buy like a bag of chips at the store, the little convenience store, so we have something to eat on the plane. So, and then it's like, okay, well, if I can't get through customs with ever, we'll just stop and buy, let's say, like, I can't get my shampoo, they're going to confiscate my shampoo. I'm going to make sure that, we can just find a way to get to like a CVS once we get there so we can get it. So I am always running in my head with what these possible problems can be and these possible solutions can be. And a lot of times that made me more brutally honest with people. That's just part of my personality. I'm not a person, if you ask me a direct question, you're going to get a lie out of. I've just found that it's not been and that's not necessarily a bad trait to have, right? To not want to always like tell lies. But another thing I've learned is that if I don't have all my solutions in my head, it makes me come across as a very cynical or negative person, because I can think of one particular incident where I was in a situation where I was waitressing and there was going to be some possible secret shoppers. And I started to say, well, if they come in, like, I mean, what's the realistic, like, why would would we do this or this and that? And in my head now, in retrospect, yeah, I was very cynical, because it was like, well, they never get the dishes right, and this is going to happen. It's me being there and bringing out scenarios that I don't have a solution for. So I'm coming across as cynical because I'm poking and prodding to certain people in that authority position, whether they are an authority over me or they're the narcissistic personality that's going to bring attention to me. And I start bringing out these like sarcastic or almost humorous situations, but I'm looking for that feedback to come back so that I can start building up what possibilities are going to be for solutions if these problems arise. And I'm not saying that everybody has these same reactions to it, but this is some of the things I've had to learn are my reactions. I avoid conflict. I always try to be prepared. Sometimes I'm to the point of over prepared. Sometimes another thing I didn't explain is, like, I have to over explain, meaning, like, I don't just say, like, oh, I'm going to take next Friday off. I'd be going to my boss and be like, my kid's in this play and, I tried to work it out, but I'm not really going to be able to leave, come in and do like a half day. I just need to take Friday off. Is that okay? The boss probably didn't even want all of that. So I'm over explaining. I'm always having to go out there and be like the networker, and always having to never just stay in my lane of doing my work. I was always one that looked at like what brought the work to my desk, and then like what effect my work would then take to the next level, because you find that you're always in the middle as this kind of a personality. And then there's probably a lot more than that in there, but like I said, the reactions of other people may have looked at it that I was being the negative, I was being sarcastic, the overachiever, one that was always having not stay in my lane. And that's the personality, but this is what was driving me to get this way. Now, I'm going to do the next segment and explore more into how there was life examples of those, and then how I feel that they really are benefiting me, and they don't have to be negatives. Realize and educate yourself on narcissists. Most of them are going to tell you, cut ties and run, like run. And you don't always have that choice. You don't. I understand that. I really understand that. So I'm going to end this now let me know. I mean, if you're in these, is this the circumstances? Is there other things that you're finding that you've been ways of coping with it? Maybe you're in this field and there's more that I haven't even explored yet. I would really like this to be a conversation about it because, like I said, I feel that there is a lot of us in the circumstances, but I don't feel it has to be viewed as all negative. And that's where I'm going to explore in my part 3 coming back. So watch for that, and I'll be back with that shortly.